All right, y'all. It's been a really, really long day, followed by a really, really long night, and it's an early morning. But if you want to know how we got here, feel free to stay tuned. Hi, I'm back from my trip down the rabbit hole and I've had a chance to shower and get cleaned up, also get a bite to eat. I thought I'd start by giving you chapter one of this story, and chapter one is a simple tone comparison. I had gotten to the point where I was wondering if I'd made a mistake in modifying red, so I decided to compare its tones to some other guitars. The first one that I used is this stock standard Squier by Fender Mini Stratocaster. Hasn't been modified at all. Same pickups, same pots, everything that you can get, just straight buying it off the street. That's all this guitar is. The next one in the test is one that I've modified. This is a Mitchell MM100, and I have taken the standard humbucking pickups out of this and I installed P90s. This is the one that I fought with the Olympic White, but I managed to get them in here and finally solve the grounding problem. Anyway, this was guitar number 2 in the test. Guitar number 3 was another stock standard guitar, and this is my Epiphone Les Paul Power Player. It is a miniature version of the Les Pauls, except for the bolt-on neck, and some traditionalists can argue in the comments if they choose. But it's equipped with humbucking pickups, dual coil pickups, whereas the others are single coil pickups. And that was the third guitar. The fourth, well, the fourth was red. And I'm sorry to say, red didn't make it. right, now the temptation may be to say, yeah, Rob, but that was with clean tones. Maybe it's a rock guitar. Here's the fun thing about high gain, high distortion. There's very little difference from guitar to guitar. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to go ahead and start 4 clips, rear pickup, 4 clips, front pickup, all 4 guitars played exactly through the same settings of an amplifier. And I'm going to start my timer so I don't miss it. And go. Could you tell me which was which? Like I said, rabbit hole. That sound may not matter to you, but it matters to me. You see, red had the bookends. It looked nice, which is 3rd on my list. It felt good, which is 1st on my list. But it didn't sound right. I didn't like the way it sounded, and so as a consequence, I never played it through an amplifier. So after that tone test, I had to do something. But I couldn't get rid of the guitar. I mean, it was Donovan's. I bought it for him when he was a kid, and I bought it from him later on when he was trying to generate some money. But still, did it deserve to end up like this? And that's how I ended up here at the workbench. I was basically going to put red back together the way that it had been. So the first thing I did was I checked the impedance of the pickups that were in the guitar. You know, give me a number, a baseline to work with. And that way I could look at old pickups and kind of see if I could find something to match. Well, I couldn't. But when I did a little more research, I found out that's probably why the guitar sounded so different than I wanted it to sound. So I went through all my old pickups, my old bin of parts, and I found a set that were close to matching. You don't want them to match too much, but found some that were kind of close, and that way I could put them together and build a new set out of an old set and then put them back into red, and that way red would be set right. Things would be back the way things were before I started monkeying around with it. But then I thought about changing the look. You know, go with a different color pick guard, or maybe go with a different type of pickup configuration. You know, did I want to go with a white pick guard and white pickups, or black pickups, or gold pickups? You know, just so many options that came about. And then as I took all these guitars apart originally, I always cut the wires close to the pickups, and that meant that I was going to have to work with some pretty small tolerances for errors with short wires. And because I was lazy, I didn't take the controls out of the pickup. So, you know, I'm soldering the things, and then I'm going to seal them with a heat gun, so that way they can have that shrink wrap stuff that kind of clumps up and holds the wires together, so they're soldered and they're connected by that shrink wrap kind of stuff. You know what happens when you get a heat gun close to plastic? It tends to warp it. And so I warped the pick guard of the original red. It was pretty bowed up. It looked pretty ugly. So then I decided I'd go ahead and get it hot again and leave it on a flat surface and go ahead and flatten it out. Well, you know what happens when you get plastic really hot with a heat gun? It discolors. And so that's pretty much what I ended up having to do, is take the whole thing and discolor it all. It kind of looks antique, doesn't it? It's not white anymore, except in some spots where the, I guess oils from hands and things didn't touch it. But it's still a little warped, especially when you put it on the guitar. It has kind of a crease to it, which means if I put it together out of old parts, it's not going to look right. It'll feel right. It'll sound right. But it's not going to look right. And I want all three. So after all of that, I decided I'm just going to go outside and sit on the front porch for a while. Just kind of relax, get my bearings, spend some time in the sun. And as I sit there and I'm listening to the wind move through the trees and the occasional bird that goes by. I can hear a car go by, obviously in need of a muffler. And then, of course, I hear the church bells chime for 7.5 minutes because the Baptist minister doesn't live next door to the Baptist church. And then I hear the dog in the backyard barking because he needs to come inside because it's hot and he needs water. And then after I get settled back in the chair, underneath all of it, as I sit there and I try to focus and I try to concentrate, underneath all of it, there's just a tone of some people who kind of think a little bit like me because apparently they love their rock and roll. Just not made for quiet, y'all.